Precious ones of the light, will you give me your attention as we turn now in thought to the subject of Maya, glamour, and karma. Maya, illusion, is so much around mankind that we ask those who would follow the light to be comfortable about the descent of the daily bread from heaven, the manna, the spiritual food that is no illusion. Far too many of the chelas, precious ones, are inclined to accept the reality and the pressures of the world, but to feel that illusion is a result in matters of the spirit, that the imagination of mankind is running wild with them. How trite, how untrue, for the contrary is manifest. The Maya of the world is reflected in the thoughts of men and their tendencies to change constantly. Learn then that the greatest pole star of your being, which is able to supply you with the boon of God happiness, lies in the domain of the Spirit and its constancy in delightful service to mankind. The illusions of the world are many, and no other illusion is perhaps as great as the illusion of self, of the person, in its ideas of separation from the heart of its divine presence. You are one with God now and always have been. This, then, sense of separation, precious ones, is an illusion fostered upon mankind by the senses. For as man peers out into the world of form through his consciousness and sees objectivity, he has a tendency, because he perceives, to suspect that he is separate from the Godhead and is seeing separately. Understand then that with the eyes of your divine presence you are always able to see as God sees, to know as God knows, to feel as God feels, and to be as God is. When you understand this, and there is no longer any sense of separation, one of the chief illusions of life will be vanquished, and in its place will come that magnificent God sense that enables individuals to understand that their destiny lies in the returning light waves and the current which came forth from God into individuality as a life stream, a radiant pathway of power which was intended to produce the miracle of self-realization in the world of form, that the self, being given its own separate identity, yet always tethered to the divine, would be able to find itself and come alive in God. Because men have abused and misused the senses, they have rather played upon the concept of separation and accentuated it, and downplayed the mighty triumphant source consciousness of their being, which giveth them momentarily life, heartbeat by heartbeat. Then what shall we do with the sense of illusion in all matters? We shall examine it a bit further and determine that mankind, by a false sense of illusion and maya, have created around themselves various concepts about the world and about themselves, many of which are not true, precious ones, but are the bane of man's existence, for they come and pop recurrently into consciousness and seem to refute the precious radiance of the Divine One. They create a sense of restlessness and boredom as mankind turns from one maic pattern to another, and their eyes are not content to gaze fixedly upon one object. This, of course, must be understood just a bit. We do not advocate that you should perhaps just sit and gaze at one object hypnotically. Oh no, not at all. But by contrast, we do not propose either that you shall be a person who is unable to direct your attention to one object, and whensoever we have desired that you should do so, such as to put your attention, precious ones, upon this beloved chart, it is entirely for the purpose of spiritual concentration and discipline, whereby you are able to obey and find control over your precious senses. There is also many other reasons in existence. One of them is that the chart is symbolic of the presence and enables you, precious ones, to actually enter in many times to a greater level of awareness of your precious God presence and all that that presence can do for you as the presence enfolds you in its own beauty, which is no illusion. But how the maic patterns fly! They flood across the mind and flit across the mind just like a group of high-flying butterflies, and mankind turn captured by the different colors, and they are distracted, and they find that perhaps they may even desire to pursue one of these little flitting concepts that come across their mind. And strange as it may seem, we have seen some of the greatest souls at times be turned aside to pursue that which was utter vanity and maya. Then afterward the individuals said to themselves, "Why was it that I did this? I do not understand it. I cannot comprehend why I made this awful mistake. Mighty I Am Presence, I call upon the law of forgiveness." And those individuals have with great regret reestablished themselves in the pathway of light. But if they would only understand that Maya does exist but has no reality, and would grasp that principle, they would find that their search should not be distracted continually by outer conditions, but that they should turn toward the great radiant patterns of the living Christ, the great patterns of God design, the patterns of their own mighty God presence, which are far more beautiful and lovely once they are known and understood than all of the others put together in one. Then now, let us turn, not because we have exhausted the subject, but let us turn to glamour. For glamour is the manifestation of the world sense. It is the tinsel and glitter of life, which causes people to feel that there is something miraculous or magical about one individual or another, and perhaps no sparkle in the domain of themselves. A perfect example of this is often found in Hollywood, where individuals will turn out in large numbers because a star is coming, that they might be able to see that star then, and the glamour attached to that individual becomes far more important to them than the concerns for their own soul and its consciousness of cosmic wonder. Is it any wonder then that with individuals so easily distracted and captivated by the glamour of the world, that they should from time to time experience a deepening sense of despair when the things of the world do not satisfy the longings of their soul, and they find, rather than a cornucopia of perfection, a vacant hole in consciousness and a sense of absence rather than of the presence? We desire you then to be aware of the fact that it is not a matter that the individual star is not a worthy person, for in some cases some of those individuals are just as worthy as any other people upon the face of the earth. But we are concerned with the glamour which men attach to these conditions, and their ease with which they are distracted and turned aside from the pathway of reality. There is also another condition which mankind are so easily distracted by, and that is the great residue of their own personal karmic patterns. Those karmic patterns, continually released into their world for balance, sometimes prove to be very distracting when individuals are brought to their attention, or they come in contact with individuals whom they have some karmic debt with, and they are then attracted by this individual for better or for worse, and the presence seems to go begging for their attention. I want you to understand, gracious ones, that God never has any sense of separation from man, even when man has a sense of separation from God. Therefore, there is no uncomfortability created in the higher realms. And when we say that the Creator is begging for the attention of mankind, we simply mean that the Creator, in his individualized consciousness and his concern, his all care for each monadic manifestation, has a great love and desire to draw his child back into his arms and heart, that he may bestow a greater measure of himself and the higher beauties upon that one. Do you understand, precious ones, how simple this is? It is just a matter of supply and demand. It is the demand of the heart hungers of individuals and the will of God to supply those heart hungers with the greatest gems in all creation. For the joy of God is in the descent of perfection around mankind. And because there is no higher perfection than the presence, God can only bestow the boon of selfhood upon mankind. I call to your attention then this day the beauty and perfection of reality, and how that karmic patterns, even as maic patterns and glamour patterns, even though they do possess for mankind who give them their attention somewhat a full measure of distracting qualities, these qualities can be counteracted by recognition and mental training, by spiritual discipline, and by God determination that will always recognize that individuals do have indeed in the power center of divine will within their heart the fullness of the law that can be called into action on the instant, whereby they can make that God-determined effort here and now in advance, that when those conditions of human boredom come into manifestation, when disturbing outer conditions projected from the world thought seem to give them a feeling of restlessness, that the peace of the presence is always somewhere in the universe, in fact everywhere, made manifest. It is simply that at that point in space where their life does flash forth, there seems to be an accumulation and accretion of darkened substance, as the sap of a tree that has run out through the bark and then dried upon the bark and does not seem to be liquid anymore and possess the quality of flow. So the calcination of mortal thought and feeling can often create conditions which must require just a bit more scrubbing and attention by the consciousness of mankind in order to create a breakthrough into those wonderful realms of light which are waiting at all times to shower the true glamour of the universe upon mankind, which is the beauty and perfection of the presence of life and the wonderful stern manifestation of cosmic fatherhood, whereby God takes the son and daughters of heaven by the hand and leads them over the pathway that the higher avatars have walked, to the place where the roses are bursting round the feet of the individuals, and the scent and sweetness of the light, as it hangs so heavily and beautifully in the air, is actually absorbed by the consciousness of the aspirant, and he understands at last that cosmic initiation and reality, that cosmic sense and cosmic design surpasses the light of mortal manifestation, even as the sun shining in his strength surpasses the light and flicker of a feeble candle flame. Yet that candle flame, precious ones, can, as mortal consciousness does in many cases, radiate more and more of the divine light, as individuals will invoke and call forth that light through the force field of their own personal identity, until they can in reality become a blazing sun right where they are. We want you to understand this law. We want you to understand that with the advent of this new year, the protectors, the heavenly protectors, are looking down upon the spiritual flock of God all over the planet and trying to make provision to remove many of the thorns that have disturbed you in the past year. We recognize full well that this path is not of necessity an easy path for individuals who have their own full weight of karma, yet untransmuted, who have also their accumulation of glamour concepts, who have also their own accumulation of maic patterns or illusions. We therefore want you to know that you cannot expect that in any one or given year or even one decade that you can accomplish everything. Although it may be possible, it is usually not probable, precious ones. And therefore I call to your attention that this great law of your life, this manifestation of heavenly beauty is the perfection of the divine plan, and it stands all around you, swaddling garments of light, swaddling garments of perfection, joy and beauty, and all things which are the hope of heaven for man here below. Understand then the perfection of the plan. Recognize the joy of God when it springs forth within your mind. Feel that joy as it seeks to penetrate illusion. In one sense of the word, if you will permit me a moment of joy in the vernacular of the human, I would say that all of the reality of God is much more powerful than one of your worldly detergents, and also can perform a tremendous service for you if you will only open up the closed areas of consciousness and let that light flow in. I know it is very difficult, for individuals do not see the strata of misqualified substance that they have in their own world. And perhaps if they did, precious ones, they would be somewhat disturbed by it. And I think the law has mercifully permitted them a glimpse, rather, of spiritual beauty from time to time, and a normal pattern, that which they call a normal pattern of life manifestation, the other part of the time, so that they do carry at times a pack of troubles upon their back, and sometimes their involvement in those troubles is not entirely a distraction, but seems to provide a challenging experience for them, whereby they are able, through their mastery of those circumstances, to overcome the conditions that brought them first into manifestation. I hope that you will understand this and recognize the rapidity with which I am speaking, which at times is a bit difficult for the messenger to catch each word as it is brought forth. But I think that you will grant him at least the benefit of the doubt that he tries to do a good job and usually does. For we are throwing these words and these ideas and concepts into his mind with a speed that is almost beyond ordinary reading speed. And I think therefore you will gather the compassion of the universe into your consciousness, and if occasionally he might drop a stitch or twist a word one way or the other, you will recognize that it is simply a matter, precious ones, of the law coming forth here now through his lips and mind with such speed that it is extremely difficult for any individual to follow at all times. You yourselves have noted perhaps that it is sometimes difficult for you to remember the words of the masters and the dictations which you vow to yourself at the moment that you hear them, that you will remember them forever. And therefore I'm sure you will understand that when one is juggling perhaps as many as 100 concepts at one time, it is difficult to be absolutely certain of them. We recall certain individuals on the planetary body who in a spirit of criticism have condemned the messengers because they did not punctuate a particular sentence in the proper manner, or they twisted one word a little inside out because in the reading of it they simply did not grasp it because of its speed. Those individuals then said they wanted to be in an activity of perfection and turned their back upon the masters and went out into the world somewhere else where the world became their guru. What a pity indeed! For I call to your attention, precious ones, at this time, that we sometimes do these things deliberately in order to test the students so that the students can find for themselves that their faith is not in any mortal, but is always in the heart of their own presence. When they see that an error is made, for example, by someone who is very close to their ascension, they are able to recognize by that a little bit of compassion in their own world for themselves. And it is the type of compassion that heaven wants individuals to develop. For in the development of that compassion, they are able also to prepare themselves for the time when from realms of perfection they will gaze upon the world and be engaged in ministration and service with individuals yet unborn, seeking to develop in those people the same qualities that we seek to develop in you, which your own mighty God presence seeks to develop in you and will. I think now that you have grasped some wonderful principles this morning, which brings joy to my heart, for I feel that this new year is bright with hope, regardless of the dark clouds of manifestation which the world seems to play up through the triumph of the news media in mortal consciousness. The day will come, gracious ones, when the cosmic law will be sought after more than the morning paper, and individuals will understand that the no news that is good news is actually very unimportant at all. And they will understand that what is most important is to understand their attunement with the higher forces in the universe and just what is happening in the Pleiades, perhaps, or in the great central sun, or what is happening in the heart of the sun of this system of worlds, or what is happening upon Venus, or upon Mercury, or somewhere else in the universe. And while we are on the subject, I would like to point out to you something concerning the life wave developments upon some of these other planets. Some of the scientists in this world are imbued with the concept that they would find life upon other planets exactly as life is lived here. They do not seem to understand that the vibratory action of the flesh form of mankind would perhaps be invisible to many other life waves on other planets, so that if they were to come here, they would not actually see this civilization at all. For it is possible, because of fourth dimensional manifestations, for entire civilizations to exist simultaneously upon one planet. And this means, gracious ones, that right while I am talking to you, a Greyhound bus might be going through a street in this room and an entirely different civilization be coexistent with this one right here. I hope that you will understand then that as there are so many strata of visibility in the world which would not at all manifest to consciousness unless consciousness were attuned to it, that simply because science finds a great heat upon Venus or finds other conditions that would seem to belie the possibility of the existence of life there does not mean that they are right. For there are many other conditions involved in manifestation than man understands with his ordinary consciousness. And I think you will grant me that mankind have at this day, even to the present hour, never seen a thought. They have only seen its manifestation. And we are in contact with a hierarchy upon Venus, and we know of its existence and understand exactly the work and service that they render to the earth as their twin sister. And we understand the chain of cosmos and the planetary chain, and we understand human nature, and we understand the fears that mankind have. And we urge upon you this day that fears which are also an illusion shall be cast aside, and that you shall replace all of the darkness of your world with the light of faith and trust in the gentility of God and the love of the ascended masters, including your own beloved Jesus and Saint Germain, whose joy and freedom is far more magnanimous than mankind have ever understood. For even to the present hour, the masters today are rendering service to individuals who in all of their own search for overcoming did hinder them the most. And because those individuals are yet embodied here, waiting their freedom, the masters, once they have attained their freedom at higher levels, many times spend more time trying to free their enemies from the thraldom of the senses than they do for those friends of light who have for so long served the cause. And if this seems to be a matter of inequity, I want you to understand clearly how that the Christ did say that the good shepherd leaves the 99 and goeth to find that which is lost. Therefore understand that you must cast aside the concept of yourself in connection with condemnation. One of the tactics of the false hierarchy and the brothers of the shadow that is going to be employed in fuller measure this year against the students of the light is the spread of the concept of condemnation. This condemnation will come from others. It will come from the world mind. It will come from subconscious lingering thoughts of guilt. It will come from many other places. But it will never come, never in all eternity, from the heart of your presence, which stands ever ready and able and willing to assist you to your freedom, to help you to be an overcomer of all outer conditions of the senses, and to usher you in to the realm and domain of the all-seeing eye of God, when the radiant perfection of the inner light sweeps away as a flood tide of perfection all of the debris and bric-a-brac of mortal intentions, until only God lives to build as the wise master builder upon the foundation of purity which he created and which he foreknew for every life stream upon earth and in manifestation. This is the work of God. It is the work of eternity. It is the work of the ages. It is the service of divine labor. In this we stand, and upon this foundation we build. I thank you. Gracious friends and lovers of the fount of tranquility, for some time now this endeavor has sought to have a symbol, and I feel that the Lord of the world has himself this night given unto our hands a symbol of tremendous worth. And I suggest that the artisans shall put their heads together, even with their hearts, and create then a simple little golden heart with a lighthouse rising from it, and these two words inscribed upon it: destiny, not dust. And thus these little words, destiny and dust, linked with the third, shall be those three little words that speak of the majesty of the divine heart, holding forth a light to the world to arouse their curiosity as to its meaning. For man is destiny, not dust, and thus all shall understand that the word in the heart, destiny, not dust, with a lighthouse rising from it, shows that mankind has a way to go to let their light so shine before men that they may glorify their Father which is in heaven. And it shall come to pass that because no other religious significance seems to appear about it, that even the profane will be attracted to the curious symbol which you may wear then about your person, and create through the whole world an illusion for God that shall draw men as a magnet. For when they see those words, they will witness to the truth of it as cosmic purpose that lies behind the manifest creation, and then perhaps untold good can be accomplished. Again I say, Happy New Year, and may the blessing of God be with you, for now you know. peace from our heart, the golden chalice of the golden lily, glowing, is flowing light rays out into time and space. And from this place in the royal Teton, where our brethren are assembled in solemn conclave, it reminds me tonight of the Wesak festival. For 2 by 2, the white-robed emissaries of the Brotherhood enter the sacred mount. Their cowls are raised to cover their heads, and identity is lost in a splendid sea of unity where all is blending in the perfectionment of divine love, flowing out into the heart of the world and reminding us of the days when the pursuit of spiritual goals was the joy of every man, when hearts were so full of love that there was no room in them for any other quality to manifest. And progress. What progress was made in those days when each thought of each one was concerned with the sun manifesting the fullness of light principle in one another. When man's concern, freed from over-concern for self, sought earnestly to draw others to the star of unity, the body of man congruent as symbol placed on symbol, star upon star, hope upon hope, pyramided portion of cosmic energy, invoking strength through unity and joy and immortality, and feeling the passion of the star as the star flowed light rays outward from sun center to periphery, and the strata of density was removed, for penetration ensued, and developed concentration upon community, and the star of community made effort easy as light seized upon the thoughts of the heart and imbued each spirit spark with the rhapsody of the kindling, the flashing, the hope, the fortuitous sense that was externalized in China and stood behind the thought, good fortune to you. And so tonight, kind friends, as I draw nigh to you with the garment of peace, I come to bring you good fortune in this our year of hopeful peace. And as the brethren of light gather round about us in these Teton halls so grand, our hearts are filled with silent awe, for so many have come, even from galaxies and systems, that some of us have scarcely yet studied or pondered upon. Insular messengers through the halls of space, determined to see, if possible, a renewal of the brilliance of the star of the East, shining within countless lives with a new meaning. Won't you please be seated? Most gracious ones, on behalf of the Brotherhood of the Royal Teton, may I thank you for your devotion. And may we ask that you contain it now for a while, that there be no breath of movement in the air, as it were, but only the stillness of hope. For stillness is invocative of peace in the mind, and it just may well be that a stunning coup can be accomplished this night while men toil at their revels and prepare for tomorrow's headache, that we can smile upon them with the bells of beauty and the fragrance of softness. For gentleness of heart is also very much a part of God. And valor is not only in noise and struggle, which are so necessary, hence El Moria and Jesus, and many who clamor a bit louder than I usually do. But I think also, for they have told me so, that there is a place for me in the universe. And I hope a place in your heart. For greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friend. And from the far-reaching realms of nirvana, I have returned to assume the position, for quite some time now, of Lord of the world, and to resume my place in that which could be a burdensome struggle for mankind if they were caught in the same trap of divine love which captured me and called me out of the depths of my divine joy to a place of service once again to the planetary body. I am told now by one of the pages that the Lord Sanat Kumara has arrived here in the Grand Teton Ranges in the Great Hall. And so I must pause to bow. My Lord, Sanat Kumara, how grateful we are for your presence and the felicitations of the lovely Lady Venus, sent by courier from far-off Venus unto the children of this planet. Venus saluted the children of Terra. Beauty that is as beauty does holds a rod of power. Beauty that is a service shining, flowing every hour, creates a sea of destiny, a round of light, immortal. Those who hold their hearts as cups unto the flame of peace shall find a sense of holiness, and strain and struggle ceases, for joy in beauty and in peace maketh life increaseth. We doubt that any will question the grammatical structure of Our Lady of Love, for she counted each word and each letter, and she created a mantra within it, and knew that it was precise and precision. O beloved Sanat Kumara, we know that thy coming bids well for the earth and sheds hope unto the world. And now we resume our pageant, for the pages have delivered to us the veil. And the veil is being withdrawn from the descending thought form of the year. It is simple and beautiful and complete, and I reverence it. It is simply a golden sun with the word Uno engraven upon it out of golden substance, and filling it from zenith unto the base. Uno flowing out with the U cupped as a gentle cup and tilted slightly to the right, coming down in a circular fashion toward the bottom, and then an M rising up to the top and to the far right, and O, Uno, unity in the heart of the sun. There is no complication here. How can men find fault with it or speak of it disparagingly? For it speaks of the hour when creation was one, and of the hour when it shall be again. To that end, brotherhood dedicates itself. For the struggle, the unnecessary struggle, must end. For some in the world, it will end this year as they pass from the screen of the world. For others, it will go on for many a year. But there are many that shall remain embodied in form, who can this night experience the rebirth of eternal security. And so I would like to give you my bond. My bond is a bond of peace. And though the whole world rage around you, and you be embroiled in the most fearsome struggle, if you shall hold to my hands of peace and know that the Christ holds with me your own, surely goodness and mercy shall follow you wherever you shall go, and man shall see these words engraven within his heart: destiny, not dust. Destiny, not dust. Destiny, not dust. And so, life shall take on a renewed meaning, and passion shall flare by God control. You shall love because you desire to love. You shall feel because you wish to. Your souls will magnify God, not only in the universal form as in the heart of the Son, but in one another, and in those who walk not in the way of the Christ, and in those who are caught in shadow and darkness, and in those without hope seemingly, and in those of other nations, and all kindreds and tongues and peoples, and those of varying thought. And while it is true that those involved in the steep darkness of psychic effluvia can find little hope, we shall ask that you persist in holding the one Spirit, the Holy Spirit, as your bond to God's heart. That you understand that not one iota or erg of energy passed from your being in love and devotion to your fellow men is in vain, nor goes it unrecorded, but it stands in the halls of God as the statue of movement, your movement. For energy that has served its purpose returns to God, and a small segment of it is assigned the task of memory. The task of memory, in many cases, is to form a beautiful statue of your ordered service to life. And some of you have an entire cathedral filled with mementos of your service through your many embodiments. Others have none. But soon there will be one for each of you. For I doubt that any of you could honestly hear this instruction and fail to heed it. I have faith in the power of my word, which is, after all, the power of God's word, even as your words can become and are, when imbued with the right spirit and the right intent. Strife in the world order remains rampant, and dire forebodings are in the karmic cup. The brim stirs even now, and there will be frightful signs in the weather. And there will be ominous rumblings in the earth. And there will be serious disturbances among peoples. This we cannot avoid. But the alchemy of divine love shall triumph. And though the people rage, and the heathen imagine a vain thing, the star of the Son of God shall continue to emit its light rays of hope. And the comfort of God shall issue forth through those of you who understand the meaning of perennial simplicity. To those of you who understand the meaning of selfless identity. To those of you who understand the crescendo of righteousness that overcometh the dark. To those of you who see in nature the hand of God and understand that if God so graced nature, he left thee also with a greater print, the print of his hands around thy heart, the print of his thought upon thy mind, the print of his hope within thy memory, and the gift of his faith upon thy hand, and the crown of his love upon thy head, and the purpose of security as the fulfillment of his intent and purposes. Where then is darkness? It is not. Where then is hopelessness? It cannot exist. Where then is failure? It vanishes in the steadfast beat of the heart of immortality. Where then are the profane? They have vanished in a sea of forgetfulness. Where are the spirit sparks? They are joyous, dancing flames in the heart of the Son of Peace. For the Son is at peace. The Son is one. The Son is joyous. The Son is eternal hope. The peace of the Son is the rays the Son emits. The emission is the energy of God sent forth to accomplish his will. And his will beckons to return. Return then to the heart of peace this night, and rise with hands raised up into the air. O eternal Father of peace and light, the sons of righteousness that are arisen with healing in their wings, ask that the wings of God shall usher in this new year, regardless of dire forebodings, with 10,000 times a greater measure of hope. That the hope that we hold anchored within thy immortal purposes may sustain us through every trial, until in cosmic triumph our unity is sealed by peace in light. O Father eternal, we thank thee, and the grand brotherhood of friends of light remain secure in the bond of immortal brotherhood and Christ radiant unity. In the name and by the Spirit of the great white brotherhood, our love sealeth you, our peace remains within you, and our comfort flame is yours to dispense. Prosit. As you were singing, I received a telegraph from El Moria, which was flashed in letters of living light, with these words: Happy New Year, one and all. Now you know. You see, UNO. He says, now you know. Signed, Moria.
Shall we sing to beloved Moria?
He has quite a sense of humor. He says, now you know. We didn't know before what the sign was going to be. And it just also, he impresses on me the thought that everyone that come to this class could, if we could somehow get together, have a simple piece of jewelry, both men and women, made for lapels and otherwise, a gold piece with the words UNO in that fashion put on it, but they should all be the same. But when people then ask you what it means, why, you can tell them it's the thought form of the year, you see, and they'll say, well, what do you mean? They'll say, well, the Great White Brotherhood releases this thought form each year in the Grand Teton. They'll say, what do you mean? And that is the open door. Now you can say, you know, to them. You ask, now you know. And of course, it's a bit of a mystery and a bit of charm along with it. And a piece of ornament. And of course, if it were pure gold, well, then it might even help you through the depression. Christe Elysion. Do you hear the rustling of the winds of peace through the grass of humanity? Do you hear the hope for peace springing full-blown from the hearts of men? Do you hear the calls for peace from the hearts of the babes in their beds as they slumber and cry out to our Father who art in heaven? Do you hear the sobbing of the world community as it invokes mercy? Do you know the meaning of the stalwart cry of hope to fill hearts with the bounty of fulfillment? Peace. Be still. And in that silent night, when the world community rests, as upon the diamond point of the apex of God's heart, it fills the world with the glow of Christ resurgent. Let there be light. And there was light when the sons of God danced before our Father with joy, and the stillness of that radiance surrounded the ever-cycling area of eternity with the expansion of the dawn and the stirring of reality. It was no faint cry as of a baby's little voice, but it was the cry of the cosmic man-child that spoke, "Let there be light." It was the sovereign voice of the Son of God, and we were that. We were that. We were that, O sovereign universe. For out of the oneness of thy heart, O mystical Father of lights, thou didst span by thy universal prescience all communication of fervent hope that banned in the world the darkness by the sovereign fiat, "Let there be light." And light as nova burst forth, and its sparkling cast all things as into shadow, for all things less than light from center heart were relative and, by comparison, in a relative sense of darkness. Darkness was the womb of light. Matter was the womb of spirit. For before that day did dawn, and mind and being and consciousness perceived, desired, and manifested, there was the Ungrund, and the Grund went forth, and behold, creation lived. And as creation stirred its tiny limbs, it was an infant universe that took its first vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Poverty that cried out and said, "Without thee, O God, I am nothing. I am poor without thee." Chastity that said, "Thy purity is my life." Obedience that thought upon no rebellion. Thus, upon this planet, did the first and second golden ages go forth under the aegis of their spiritual mentor, and perfection shone in the eyes of all. And Michael, the archangel, was there, and a goodly company of heaven, and rejoicing came wave-like and was trumpeted over the sea of manifestation, and darkness moved upon the waters. And suddenly the light grew more splendid, and darkness vanished, and light lived in the dancing waters, teeming with life and manifestation. And the earth, standing in the water and out of the water, showed its willingness to obey. Via naturae. The way of nature is plain. The way of nature is to obey. For the fiats of God are the inexorable probings of his mind into all cosmic possibility, into all benign thought, into all potentiality of goodness and beneficence. And in him was no darkness at all. And he was light, and he was life, and he was love, the unalterable heartbeat of love, that by diastole and systole of flow created currents to go out and currents to return, and the beauty of consciousness in its own ebb and flow, as it rejoiced in itself and comprehended itself in its own goodness and nature. And the Lord God saw the creation which he had made, and behold, O universe, it is good. And the fiat has never been revoked. The world of God remains benign, remains good to this solemn hour of renewal of hope to the children of our heart's love, from their elder brothers of light, from the realm of the angels, from great realms of beauty, and from the rubaiyat of perfection. Whom I love, I chasten. I scourge every son whom I receive, saith our Father. And the chastening is as the pruning of the trees, that more abundant fruit may manifest. Smart not, rebel not, under the chastening of God, which is for the whiting of perfection in thyself. We as elder brothers gently take mankind by the hand, and though the world deny it, though the world deny our existence by their every act, though they turn and rend themselves in their own confusion, and though the lawyers of the world continue to the present hour to be the most guilty of all, so that I am prompted this night to say to the lawyers of the world, woe unto you, ye lawyers, for to the present hour the imperfection that ye mete out has turned the world into a status of gross injustice. And I say to the lords of karma, may God bring about a speedy reconciliation by justice and mercy to the people of the world who have been rendered by this awful conspiracy of those who claim to espouse the cause jurisprudence, and by their every breath in the name of the God and Moloch of the dollar do love money more than they love God. Truly, the profession stands today in most ill repute in the world community, and rather than lead mankind toward righteousness by obeisance and justice of the law, they have led mankind into constant conflict to their own profit of person and despot of soul, and they stand most naked in the world community of all. And behind them, in the healing professions, come many individuals who have not understood the goodness and mercy of God that would bring about the perfectionment of mind and body. Yet among the children of God upon this planet, there are none more sweet than the good physicians who desire to serve because their hearts are full of love. We then say to the world community today that the rule of law and righteousness is the requirement of the hour, and the hearts of men all over the planet are hungering and thirsting after righteousness. That they be filled is our prayer. As I spake unto Peter, Simon Bar-Jonah, lovest thou me more than these? And he spake unto me, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. And I spake unto him, Feed my lambs. And again I spake unto him and said, Simon Bar-Jonah, lovest thou me more than these? And he said unto me, Lord, thou knowest all things, thou knowest that I love thee. And I said unto him, Feed my lambs. And he spake unto me, Thou knowest that I love thee. And I said, Simon Bar-Jonah, lovest thou me more than these? And he said, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. In almost desperation. And I said unto him, Feed my lambs. And I say unto you in this hour, that the little ones who are my own, who know my voice, whether of age and maturity, or yet babes, do all have their angels in heaven, which ever behold the face of my Father. And they all need to be fed the manna of regeneration. Feed my sheep. And the admonishment goeth forth this hour, and is a tender, ever fresh state of being. Come ye out from among them, and be ye a separate people. Walk not in the same ways of riot and destruction with the masses, but be examples unto them, not examples of shame, but examples of fearless flame, fearlessness, devotion, outreach for progress, and tenderness that like a flower can emit its perfume into the world as one vast room. Flowering hope, not despair. To every utterance of negation say, God provideth life, light, and love. To every thought of negation say, I am the perfection of eternity flowering in this moment of time. To every feeling of emptiness say, I am the fullness of the divine life manifesting at this point in space. And my race is to obedience toward perfection. To every flow of boredom, say, I am the ever new consciousness of God, which causeth hope to flourish, and by faith bear the fruit of charity. To every feeling of sleepiness or negative quality that seems to seek the overpowering of the self, say, I am awake in God. I am awake in love. I am awake in power. I am awake. To the transmutation power say, manifest thou in me thy perfection producing consciousness, thy flame of cosmic victory, and transmute in me and in all the borders of God's kingdom all that is not of the pure Christ. To every measure of imperfection say, I am the measure of immortal perfection by the cubit rule of cosmic law that makes me the perfect Son of God, the master mason in the eternal temple beneath the scales of cosmic justice, building before God and man those perfect instruments of happiness which the temple of the world shall contain. Rest then in this hour when disturbing conditions and fear sweeps the world in the supreme ark, the ark that greater than the ark of Noah holds within itself a place for all. The ark that greater than the Hebraic Ark of the Covenant enables all to be cubit stones in the temple invisible victorious. The ark that as a rainbow come full circle brings the cosmic light into manifestation from the seven rainbow rays. The ark of beauty, the ark of purity, the ark of safety. As you stand at the threshold of the new year, realize that virtue and every godly quality is the greatest treasure of your life and central to your victory over every shadowed and unwanted condition. As you express your gratitude to our Father for all benefits bestowed the past year, understand that above all benefits is contact with our brotherhood, the holding of our hands, the receiving of our love, the assurances of our protection and direction, and the sense of ever-increasing wisdom and joy that fashions out of the children of the flame the inhabitants of eternity. From myriad worlds and spiral nebulae yet unborn, from civilizations yet unknown even to the mind of God, but dimly perceived as hopeful dawning for new ages yet unborn, sing out an anticipatory revel, a song for the children of this age not yet come to fruition. For God foreknew from the beginning all things, and conceived only righteousness and treasure and purity and victory and beauty and compensation according to his magnificent laws for all of his creatures. And if I, as the Nazarene carpenter, were asked today to serve, it would be to create a cross of reason, a cross of worth for the community of the world, that they might nail to that cross all of their fears and tremblings, and then calling unto God for the descent of the divine fire, set fire to it all by a cosmic conflagration, that all of the works of men that are imperfect should be burned up and replaced by a cross of light and hope, reminiscent of the meaning behind the statement that I spoke. Come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly of heart, and ye shall find rest for your souls. O angels from the house of David, I invoke thy presence now in the name of God to descend into this place and wave-like, coming from the farthest reaches of eternal values, to bring the wave-like ever-flowing blessings of the eternal river Jordan into the consciousness of these people, to flush out those values that have no value, to replace values with value, to expand that ever-widening circuit of thy hallowed self in manifestation wherever thou art, O our heavenly Father, descending through thy flaming angel messengers, as light is expanding now in a resurgent reminiscent of the old days when the first golden age victoriously and triumphantly ascended to the skies, and the welcoming committee that descended was such as has never been seen before nor since, in manifestation of the renewal of the old covenant of the soul, which it took in the bonds of pure light ere it descended into form and consciousness, where it became controlled by form and consciousness in its aborted senses and strata. Now then, let the new thought from the mind of God be: life and light and love controls the outer form, controls the outer consciousness, until in the dawn of the purity of the flame and the luminescence of the eternal day, where no night shall ever dwell again, all tears in consciousness and tears in the garments of man's bodies shall be mended by the healing flow of the ever-resurgent Christ light in all of its beautiful and gloriously harmonious manifestation of the oneness of the Father's heart, as he bands together all of his children into one Christolic manifestation of hope such as the world has never known before, when all seas become as calm as the sea of glass before the throne of God, and men walk upon the waters of emotion and all thought and feeling as though there was no motion within, save that silent perfection that is the reflection of the crystallized consciousness of God, which dares to crystallize because of its purity, as a lens whereby the eyes of men may gaze through into the perfections of that which shall be, when in the stillness of the eternal moment all universal consciousness rests in that grand pause symbolized by the triumph of the seventh trumpet that shall sound, and by the seventh seal that shall be broken, and by the seventh day of God, when all things shall rest in him, and peace shall reign supreme in every heart, and the chalices of men shall become the chalices of God, and the all-seeing eye resident within all, as all perceive through the eyes of God the beauty he intended all to behold when first he keyed into the orb of vision the power of physical sight, and into the spiritual eye the power of spiritual sight. And from the day that men fell, they have not yet learned to externalize that perfection which glistens without tear in the eyes of God, as so glorious that mankind, in all of their thought about its basic simplicity, can never even cognize 1/1,000,000th of it in 1,000,000 years. Thus, we say, light dwells with men in the tabernacle of their witness. Where God is, there I am. And if you remember to utter this word daily, you will find the memory of my other words and thoughts flashing forth in your consciousness with hope renewed as each flaming moment comes into manifestation to go into the Akashic records as victory fulfilled. I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live.